welcome back to Manual Across New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, and shall we see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhollow today. What should we talk about today? You know what I could talk about today, because it's actually something which, I feel like, I don't know where I was going with this, but people are reasonably familiar with, but you know, like language learning apps, especially on your phone, because I was looking through my apps yesterday, like, because I was like trying to see which ones I should like uninstall, because I was like, oh, I don't use these anymore, whatever, and you know, no. Stuff like that. And I was like, oh, you know, I got this app on my phone called Hello Chinese, which is of course just like a Chinese sort of like learning app or whatever, from ages ago, which I installed ages ago to try and, you know, like refresh my Chinese, but I hadn't used it for ages, so, you know, I guess we'll get into that story in a bit. Hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 2:10 PM on Thursday, May 19th, 2022. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, it's not that new a phone, but it presumably was an app I installed ages ago on my old phone, and then when I transferred everything across, it also got downloaded as well. And I was like, oh yeah, I never actually opened this. I just installed it just to be like, you know, this is what I've been meaning to do to like actually practice my Chinese and that sort of thing. Like I've tried using well, not I've tried, I have used different like language sort of like learning apps before, but nothing really sort of compares to actually being like in a structured education. I think, you know, I've done like a bit of Chinese and Japanese learning, I suppose, using apps and what have you, but like nothing really beats being, I suppose, actually in a school or in some sort of class to actually learn it, at least for me personally, because that sort of structure is well, it's not really so much a structure as I suppose it's actually having a teacher to guide you, rather than a phone which, you know, is not really sentient yet. You know, as soon as we get sentient phones, then I guess that's a whole other story. but yeah, luckily for me, I've gone to those classes already, so now the majority of what I know now, I suppose, how to learn from an app pretty well. I think it's pretty difficult when you get started, but once you start to get the hang of things, now the majority of the things I need to learn tend to be like vocab or like different ways to conjugate things. But since I know how to learn it from previous things I've seen before, I now know how to apply it to like different things, so now I can sort of learn whatever. I guess I could learn from a dictionary, but that would be very boring to be honest. So these apps are a very nice sort of happy medium of like they do the annoying stuff for you, which is, you know, like gathering all the vocab, structuring it in a way which, like, in an ordered way which makes sense and what have you, then actually automatically, you know, keeping track of things you haven't practiced in a while and things you have practiced. So I opened up Hello Chinese. And the thing I had I was annoyed with before, because I used to use Duolingo. Oh, actually, I didn't used to use Duolingo, because back then I don't think Chinese or Japanese were on Duolingo. I used Memrise, but the problem is with Memrise is it's basically like a flashcard sort of thing, which was pretty good when I used it back in GCSEs, and people had like structured GCSE lessons and that sort of thing. But you know, my Chinese and Japanese tend to be a little bit probably above GCSE sort of levels or what have you. Excuse me. And I haven't really followed like a strict curriculum, so I don't really know the exact levels I'm at for those languages in particular. And also, so you know, sort of like I would download like content packs, and then I'd like work through a content pack and be like, oh, I know all of these things already, or I'd go to another one and be like, oh, I literally know none of this, so I can't really revise on it particularly well. It's hard to find like a sort of cut-off point from things I don't know into things I know, and the reason it's hard to find a cut-off point is because there's a bit of a gradient, isn't it, from things I sort of know, like, you know, things to do with business. I might not know exactly what, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know what the word of employment is, but I know what the word for company is, like 公司 or like a signature, 签字, and stuff like that. But that's actually a very nice thing on Hello Chinese. So I suppose if you want to learn Chinese, I would recommend Hello Chinese. Is the fact that they have all the main courses sort of just like laid out to you in like these nice sort of bubbles and whatnot. But then I noticed as I was scrolling through, just like looking at all the different things, is you can actually take a shortcut, and you can take these shortcuts basically at any time. You can basically click them, and it will just give you like a test which has like 20, 30 or so questions on it, using all the content from all of the topics covered previously and what have you. And basically, if you pass that test, then that's basically sort of an indication where you're good enough to that you basically already know about stuff and will unlock it, and we'll just pretend that you basically completed it all already. And I was like, that's genius. That's actually perfectly what I need and what I want, because now it can automatically figure out for me basically where my cut-off point for is of like vocab I don't know. I had to prove it for one, and then it automatically adds it into the research, the revising like sort of regimen. I'm like, oh, brilliant, fantastic. So yeah, of course, I skipped ahead like 2 or 3 times. I don't really know. I'm looking at the stuff towards the end. Like some of this stuff I do know, but some of this stuff I definitely don't know. yeah, I skipped to HSK2. And then I could have done HSK3. Like, I could have done the next shortcut, I think. But I wasn't confident enough in my ability to, like, I got through like 17 questions and then I failed the exam and I was like, okay. You know, it was the sort of thing like I could do this multiple times and I could probably figure out, and I could probably pass it, but just judging by the previous times I did the other two shortcut skips where I just absolutely sailed through because I knew everything. This one, there was a lot of times I was like, I don't know what this word is, but I can sort of infer it from like the context around it. I was like, you know what, I don't know this vocab well enough, so I might as well go through. So, you know, I did a little bit yesterday, a little bit today as well, because it's also nice because, you know, I like to do things in a regular sort of schedule, but, you know, it's also kind of disheartening to do things in a regular schedule if it's things you know, which is a problem I had with Memrise before. I was doing it like, I was just basically going through all the stuff I already knew, just trying to find, like, that cut-off point of when it became vocab I didn't know. And it was really disheartening to basically, I'll go on it and be like, oh, you know, I feel like I'm making no progress, but this I'm actually making progress. And, you know, I just done restaurants too. What did I learn from restaurants too? It's actually stuff I already knew, but helping out is the next one. Should we see what's in it? You know, Isha Kai. What? Is that a song or Guan? I can't remember. My reading's not that good. I'm gonna be honest. Dan Ran Bang. That means help. Ba? Tran? What? Boat? Job, yeah. It's got some really random words in it. It's got sorry, you can't understand what I'm saying. So Dan Ran is just like, of course. Bang is to help. It's got Tran. Tran. I don't know if that's actually Tran or not. But if it's Tran, it's boat. And then it's got Jiaopian, which Jiaopia, as I would say with my Beijing accent. It says photo. What's that? Wan. Dora. Xie. Wow, thank you is so late. They teach you thank you so late. I didn't even realise that. I mean, it's probably hello as well. Maybe this is like a revision one or whatever. And there's also like other courses which I haven't really looked at. There's main course pronunciation. Wow. Or like learning the tones. An old course. Anyway, this one goes up to HSK level 4. So it doesn't go any further, so I suppose if I need to go further from that, that's when I need to start searching out more specialist, I suppose, apps or whatever, with flashcards organised and such to learn really complicated things. Like, I bet there was a lot of things in this test, when I tried to do a shortcut one, which is using Office, basically, terminology. I was like, oh, I don't know, like all these finance and Office terminologies, I don't know how you meant to. But anyway, so I did it with a Chinese one last night, and I was like, you know what I should do for a Japanese one as well. So I researched around, looking for through Japanese apps, basically, just trying to find the ones which would work best for me. One people always said was like Anki, I think, was a flashcard one, and I didn't really like it because I didn't. It's not really like I think flashcards are bad, but they're sort of like good for when you've got like a whole list of vocab for you to learn already, I suppose. But I kind of like the interactive apps, which track a sense of progression and, more importantly, work out automatically for you which ones I need to revise and which ones I don't. That's a point of using the apps, I think, in my head, is that they take care of all the like annoying but not all that difficult things to do, such as organising, you know, the lesson structure and checking up on your ability to recall things that which you should already know. So I settled on this app called what's it called, Lenshu, I think, because it's quite cute. It is the major reason. It's not the major reason. It's because it had like other things. It's between this one. I can't remember what that one was called. It was like Batsu or something. But this one has like a community surrounding it, which I thought was pretty cool. Where you can like new question corner. What's this question? This is part of it. It's like it's got these community things, like these daily questions. What's this? Nanio. I don't even know what this word is. And also a nice thing, if you don't know what a word is, you can click on it and it'll tell you the hiragana and the dictionary translation. Umaku. Skillful. I knew it was skillful, I just didn't know how to read it in Japanese. It's the thing with reasonably knowing Chinese and doing Japanese, is I can sort of infer quite a few of what the words are, but I just don't know how to say it in Japanase. Nani umaku? What was it? I immediately forgot. Umaku. Umaku nanitai sports ga arimasu ka? So what sport do you want to become better at? Oh, interesting. I guess I'll answer that as well later, because, you know, it's nice to participate in this community thing. They also I saw they had things like crosswords and like sort of mini games you could play with like words. It's a very gamified version, which I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Anyway, I did a Japanese one. This one, one downside, it doesn't have a test like it does in Hello Chinese, being like oh, how much vocab do you know, whatever. You just had to answer yourself. So I said I was like conversational in it, which might have been a bit higher. I might have put myself a bit higher than I actually should have been, because I was like, I don't it didn't tell me basically what the sort of like breakdowns were. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, at my peak, it probably was conversational. But then, I was doing it last night, and I was like, oh, these vocab words are pretty fair and pretty easy. I can't remember what they were. It was like breakdown or something, which amusingly I can't remember off the top of my head. So, but then I was doing it this morning, and it was utterly absurd. Like the words they were teaching, like well, one of them was like machine, which is like keiki or something. No, kek. I can't even remember, clearly I need to go back in the app and actually remember what these words are. It was like machinery, and it was like, I was like, oh my god, I'd never seen this word before. Well, can you use an example sentence? The example sentence was, that machinery moves using electromagnetic power, and I was like, what? That's utterly insane. May stamp card. I don't know what these stamp cards are, oh my word. Choose a correct answer for the definition. The more questions you answer, the faster it gets. The game ends if you lose all your hearts. Manga? Cow manga. Okay, I got a manga apparently. Anyway, it's very much gamified. I wonder if I can see the words I studied today. That would be quite nice. I suppose I was meant to save them, but I didn't. Anyway, look, I got 100% my vocab, I got 67% my grammar, my kanji. I got 100%. That doesn't sound right. my grammar was not good. There was a lot of things I need to learn from that, but that's the point of it. So we sort of you can revise them as you see fit. My only thing is that I probably intermediate words. Can I see the words I learned recently? Schedule health 12/6. 18 studied. Oh, here we go. Learn it. Loading the list. Oh yeah, like these are ones I did last night. It was like kai, which is basically a counter word. So if you're saying like I don't know. Well, the example here is 100 sit-ups. Sorry, excuse my language. 100 sit-ups. You would use kai, maybe hyaku kai, or whatever. And then don't ju, which is 10. I was like, okay. Say hi. I was like, oh, this is all really easy stuff. Chew inside. Okay, I can do that. And then just the words today were just insane. Let me find them again. Kosho breakdown, and I was like, what? Okay. I mean, like. But I'm not really sure what was relevant to, but I see. And then it was like, oh yeah, kikai, a mechanism, and I was like, what? It's a very difficult one to write as well, because if you don't know, Japanese use kanji, which is often cited as like Chinese characters, which it kind of is basically, because that's like where language tends to be derived from. But Chinese, if you don't know, there's basically two ways of writing it. There's traditional Chinese, which is mainly used in like Hong Kong and Taiwan, and there's simplified Chinese, which is basically at some point they were like, yo, why are all these Chinese characters so complicated? Let's make them easier, which is used in mainland China. And I'm mainland Chinese, so I mainly know the simplified version. But I used to go to a Chinese school where I did learn some traditional Chinese as well, so I can recognise like some conversions, but I don't know all of them. Don't go, Raymond. But Japanese, of course, because they took after Chinese like ages years ago. Obviously took the traditional Chinese characters and never took up the simplified Chinese ones. So often all of their characters tend to be far more complicated than Chinese ones. Not always, but. And the worst part is when they're like slightly different to the Chinese ones, because probably the best example I have is love, which is I, or I, I suppose in Japanese and Chinese. Or I suppose you could read it as like other things. I forgot what the couldn't reading is for or whatever. Because it's slightly different in each language. Like the Japanese one has like a radical for heart, and I don't know what that other radical at the bottom is called. But then the Chinese one has a radical for like friend, I think. And it's like why are these like so similar but just marginally different? But anyway, oh yeah, this word just made me go what? Enryo, and it's restraint. And I was like, why is this one? I thought we were going to be talking about like machinery or something and working with mechanisms or something. I guess that's what this vocab pack was, and it's just like restraint in the middle of it. And I was like, what the heck? These are so difficult. It was just a sucker punch of going from breakdown to machinery to restraint, and I was just like, this is a huge step up. Anyway, I did the grammar one as well, and I did very bad. I did the grammar one, and I'll be honest, because I hadn't. At least like I learned half of the vocab ones before, so I really only had like half of many vocab to learn in the first place. But I was like, what? The only bad thing I have about this Japanese one is it doesn't seem to be testing me on, or at least I haven't figured out how to test myself on things I've already skipped past, because I've technically skipped past like 2 stages, I suppose, of the actual Japanese language, like learning stuff. But oh, I guess I could change this from learn new to use sentence questions. Type write the answer when possible. I wonder if I should do that. Oh, I'm gonna be so bad at that though. More settings. Study as much as I can. Scheduled aim intermediate quiz size. 40? That's quite a lot. Kanata kanji. I don't see why I wouldn't put kanata kanji in. I was just looking at the settings now on the learning app. Kanji to kana, kana to kanji. Yes, why not? No more than 3 vectors are recommended at once. Oh. Would I rather have kanji to kana or kana to kanji? That's a good question. I don't really know what the answer would be. But I'd be like recognizing the kanji and being able to write it, or recognize. No, I guess it makes. You know, I'm gonna stick with their default. But they know better than I do. I'm gonna be honest. Is that like a revision? It's not like a revision thing. Like, I don't want to learn new. I want to learn like old stuff as well. I want the old stuff to slowly be peppered in as well. But I don't know if there's an option for that. But yeah, again, I've only like used this for like 1 day, so I think it's a little bit preemptive of me to really judge anything. Anyway, if only there was a Hello Japanese. You know, there might be a Hello Japanese instead of a Hello Chinese. I would use Hello Chinese, Hello Japanese. Let's see, Hello Chinese. Honestly, there's a Hello Japanese as well. No, there's not. I was wondering to see if this company does anything else. Blog? Because if they started branching out into different, that was very weird, but the loading symbol there was the same loading symbol for Jupyter Lab. If they started branching out into different languages, I'd be like, yes, yes. But it doesn't seem like we do. So I'll stop close that now. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to diss on language apps, but I do feel like they're not, at least for me personally, they're not the best way to particularly learn a language. At least when you're starting out. I feel like really when you're starting out, at least for me personally, that's just my experience, is you really got to start from, you really got to start with like the structured like classroom sort of lessons. Having an actual teacher there to guide you in the right direction. It's basically, you start setting up the foundation, I suppose, when you're starting out learning a language of that sort of thing. And then, you know, you can use a vocab to sort of, you know, build on top of it like however you want, right? Because once you learn how to learn about structure, and once you learn how to learn about vocab and to recognize separate things, then you just basically need like a master list of like all the different sort of vocab and all the different sort of verb conjugations which you can do. That's basically the part where I'm at in Chinese, where it's like I know the grammar and all that sort of thing. It's just, you know, I don't know the vocab necessarily because I've never been exposed to some of the vocab. Like I remember like Chinese school, like I mean I probably have been exposed to vocab. It's been years and years, so I've kind of forgotten a lot of them. And I wouldn't say I was the most studious student in Chinese school. I was like 8. I was like 5 years younger than like every other classmate in my class or something, because I started very young. I actually started like at a different age, but then I was told I had to repeat a year, not because I was too bad or anything, it's because I was too young. The teachers recommended I didn't go up a year. But even still, like when I like graduated, I suppose, but yeah, I did my GCSE Chinese. I was still like, I wasn't even in secondary school yet, I don't think. So I was like 11. And like the next youngest person in my class was like 15, 16 or something. So, you know, I was a bit too young for everyone. I remember I didn't even talk to anyone, I think, in Chinese school. Not until like the final year or whatever. I was just far younger than everyone else, and you know, I was a little bit quiet as well. I should have just brought my DS in. I don't know why I didn't. Oftentimes, just during lunchtime, I just sort of like wander around the school and explore. I remember that. I'm actually not sure how I passed them on my time. But anyway, I was basically way too young to. Oh yeah, International Museum Day. I forgot. I guess we'll participate in that. Why not? I just kind of came here. Wait, hold on. Do we even need to? Several unique mementos. Give it a go. Sure. Why not? Do we even need to? Oh, we don't even need to look at fossils. Okay. Well, let's do the International Museum Day thing then. Even though we already got the plaques you get from it, because we've got them every single year. What was I going to say? Yeah, because I do remember covering a lot more complicated vocab, I suppose, in Chinese school. Like, I remember one of the more complicated ones I remember. Quiet bench. Was like parts of a car or something, like engine. The only one I remember is tire, which is lunzi. Lun. I don't remember the tone on it. That's the problem as well, because the Chinese school I went to was quite unstructured, I'm going to be honest. It's not like licensed teachers or whatever. Well, I mean, I guess they were kind of were licensed. It was more like tutors, I guess would be probably the better way to put it. But it's not like people who went to actually... Well, actually, maybe they did get a teaching degree. I'm not going to, be rude to them in case they didn't. But it certainly felt a lot unstructured. And honestly, it was a lot of the students, like parents. Like, even my mother taught there for a while. Never taught me. But yeah, even some family friends, like teachers, taught there for a while or whatever. Compared to like when I did Japanese, which was at my university, it was like in a specific language course, which was like subsidized by the university, and it was a teacher. She'd been teaching. She's fantastic. I should really send her an email and see how she's doing, to be honest. And she'd been teaching for like 20, 30 years or something. Okay, maybe not that long. I don't really record. But yeah, it's certainly different, isn't it? A different sort of feel. Well, the good thing is, that I certainly learned a lot more on those sort of like extracurricular language classes than there's the one. When I did in like the actual language classes I did for like my GCSE. Like I've done GCSE French, so theoretically I have a GCSE French level education, which is I'm not sure if I really holds true anymore. I'll be honest, it's quite a while since I've done French, so I can't remember a lot of it. I think I'd be able to recognise and read it okay-ishly, but I probably wouldn't be able to actually write or speak it particularly well. Sorry, let me have a sip of water. I've just remembered I need to record a Happy in Paradise episode today because I'm not going to be here on the weekend. So I need to record that in advance. Maybe I'll record 2, I don't know. Depends how quickly I do the first one, I suppose. There's 2 of them right here. I've never seen them this close to each other. Mollusks and arthropods. I forgot what I was going to say. Something about, oh yeah, I've certainly learned a lot more in my Japanese one than French and Spanish ones. Like I did Spanish. We started off in my school. You had to do 2 languages, either French and Spanish or French and German. And our class got chosen to do French and Spanish. And then you drop one at the end of year 9. Or you don't have to drop one, but at GCSEs, it's only mandatory to do one. And I was like, I'm not really much of a modern foreign language person, even though I do like the concept of it, modern foreign language. But just a load of other subjects I like better. And I always say this, I shouldn't have done history as a GCSE subject. I don't know why I did. I had no interest in history. I was just like, well, I mean, the only good thing about it was like I learned how to write essays, I suppose, from it, which is, fine. But I definitely should have learned graphics, studied graphics, but oh well. That's not a point. What was my point? Yeah, you drop one like the end of year 8 to year 9. I can't really recall. I think it's midway through year 8. Hello, Apollo. Goodbye, Apollo. And then, and I stuck with French because I was like, I'm better at French. And I like it more than Spanish. So, both signs pointed to learn French. So I did it. And, I'm not going to say my French teacher was terrible because he's not terrible. It's just, we didn't jive all that well. We didn't, he wasn't the right teacher for me is probably what I'd say. Like, my year 8 French teacher, she was great. She's one that, it clicked with, like, her education style clicked with me very well. My GCSE one, not so much. He's not a bad person because a lot of other people like learn pretty well from him. I'm sure of it, but for me personally, it was like, it wasn't quite the same. Oh, but I'm not sure if I tell this story. Like, there was this thing, like, but basically you had to do like these assessments. You had to do like you had to submit 2 writing assessments and 2 speaking assessments basically for your GCSE, and you get marked on them and whatnot. But I remember what you do is you do 4 of them throughout the year, and the 2 of the best ones decided by the teacher, or in this case the teaching assistant for the speaking one, would send them off. Float, float, wave, wave, bloop, bloop. Beautiful. And I remember, they were all rated out of 20. The highest I ever got, I got like 16 as my highest, which is an A, compared to an A star, which would be about 18 or something. So I got like 16, 14, 14 as like my 4 of them throughout the year, which is not great. And it's a little bit discouraging. So I was like, oh man, I'm not very good at French. It turns out, like, it's not to say I didn't try. I definitely did try. It's just like, I don't know why I didn't do so well, to be perfectly honest. But I do know in retrospect. But anyway, what they do is after that you done all of them throughout the year, basically just to check, since they're marked by the school, basically just to check that the school's marking everything correctly, a sample of them are sent off to the exam board to just basically verify. So instead of the exam board having to mark like all 180 or something kids who did that language, maybe not, about 100 kids who did that language, about 5 of them, or like 5 to 10 of them are sent off instead. and then they have their assessments marked, and basically if like it found out if it's found out like across the board for the marks, so basically what the examiners would have given them, then you're just like, okay, you know, your marks are probably fine then you know if it turns out the teachers might have marked it a bit too harshly, like too low compared to normal, then everyone else is get bumped up basically to sort of like adjust it. It's basically just to find out what the bias is and what the difference is between the teachers and the expectation. And I think it's also like if all of them are like not vastly different, but different, then the exam board gets sent all of them just to be like, yo, teachers, what are you doing? You're completely marking this wrong or something. But I remember like they're basically randomly chosen. Like everyone who did a language of GCSE was put into basically a random, not random number, well, yeah, a random name picker or whatever, and to basically be like, hey, these are the people who are going to be sent off. And I remember I was one of the 3 in my class whose stuff was going to get sent off. And I was like, oh no, I don't want my marks to go down. And I was like, I'm barely at an A grade anyway. This is terrible. And then it turns out, you know, they came back, they all got bumped up to 18s and 19s. And I got A star in the end. And I was like, oh, all right then. Which is good, because I wouldn't have got an A star, I don't think, if I it's crazy to think, because I wouldn't have got that A star in French if my things weren't like bumped up a grade, like entire grade. And also it's beneficial, I suppose, not just to me but to my classmates as well, because then there's a chance I know that other people's grades got bumped up as well, because it was just like, oh, you know, you're being too harsh. I don't really know why they were bumped up like that much, to be honest. I don't know. No, they probably weren't bumped up to 19s. Hold on, I think they were just bumped up from 16s to 18s. I was like, oh, okay, this, you know, I'm not going to complain. That's fantastic. I was like, but why was I marked so low, I suppose, in the first place? Was my question. I have it saved somewhere on my computer. Let me try and find it. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you them entirely. Yeah, in here. I can see what I ended up in. GCSE French. French. No, wait, that's the examination. French. Yeah, no, not only do they get, this was my speaking ones, I think. Wait, they're both out of 20. But they're out of 60 here, so I don't really know what's happened here. I guess they got scaled? Maybe we sent off 3. Or only the best one? No, it can't be the best one, because I lost 4 marks here. Anyway, so basically, I suppose I was getting 80% or whatever, but now, you know, they got sent off. I got 90%, more than 90%. I got like 95%. No, that's not 95%. Oh, I can't do maths. It's like 93% or something. I got bumped up a ridiculous amount of percentage. I was like, what? that's what gave me the A star, I suppose. I did pretty well at my papers as well. Now I'm not looking at it. I did a lot better at French than I remembered. I thought I was basically scraping by. Like I only just got them the A star and everything across the board. But it was actually, you know, it's not comfortable, but it was like reasonably above it. Anyway, I was a good student, it turns out. I suppose it makes sense. You can see it from a statistical standpoint, where I was doing very well in all my other subjects, and then French was just randomly like a whole grade below everything else. I was like, why? What is happening? In a French accent. I don't know why I did that. And there you go. There's your result. Apparently, I was being severely undermarked. Anyway, I didn't use a French learning app at any point. I don't have any interest in learning more French, but I do have an interest in learning more Chinese and Japanese. So, which is why I'm going to try and do my best to rigorously stick to a schedule. Of doing apps, and honestly, it's really fun. Like, I think it's fun learning the Chinese vocab. The Japanese one vocab is less fun because it's, you know, I actually need to think about it a lot more. But the Chinese one's sort of just like, oh, that's a word, okay, easy, done. So it's like now, instead of like doing nothing with my time, where well, not doing nothing with my time. Now the times where I'm bored, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure what to do. Learn a bit Chinese or Japanese. Why not? That's where it's all a little bit of fun, isn't it? That's what I think, at least. I suppose we're going to run into a problem, I suppose, when we reach the end of all the lessons. But it'll be a good way to revise, I suppose. Certainly at the very least. And then, you know, I'm going to have to find a different app or whatever, which with harder vocab in. Or I'm going to have to actually learn, like, using the Anki and vocab and stuff myself. But, you know, that's a bit of a while off. I mean, we're only 1 day into it. So anyway, I'm going to round off this episode here. I'm going to record some Happier in Paradise. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join my Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.